Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I'm a 40-year-old female and my parents are divorced because my dad cheated. If you want the full details, I posted a story in relationship advice a few years ago. I don't know if I'm allowed to post links to other subreddits here, but you should be able to find it on my profile. I guess you could consider this an update. But the short version is my mom found out my dad was cheating and started divorce proceedings. As a result, my dad got vindictive and allowed then encouraged his mistress to get vindictive towards my mom. When his mistress broke up with him, he tried to come crawling back to my mom, who shut the door in his face, and he spent the whole divorce process lashing out at my mom, me, and my other siblings and our kids, to the point where we all had to go no contact with him. Anyway, the divorce was finalized and Dad and his mistress have been on again, off again. They had a kid together, there was some drama where he denied the kid was his, and he got a paternity test done, and it turns out it is his. He showed up at my door a few weeks ago and told me he was going to stay with me. Not asked, told. And not just that. He told, not asked, that while he was here, my husband and I needed to move into the guest room so he could have our room because it has an ensuite. And, he needs that. As you can imagine, I put my foot down hard. I told him after everything he did, how dare he darken my doorstep. Or worse, not even apologize, not even ask how I am or how his grandkids are, but to dictate to me that he is staying in my house. I am normally a pretty calm, go with the flow kind of person. But I just lost it and screamed all the things he did to us. The vindictive attacks, the way he used my kids as weapons to get back at me, the smear campaigns he led against my mom. He screamed back, "When you came crying home after your breakup with your ex, I let you stay in my house, eat my food, moan about in your room. I let you come home. I didn't act like a complete jerk." To be clear, the breakup he's talking about was when my former fiancé cheated on me with multiple women. Oh, and also for anyone who hasn't read my previous post, it's not his house, it's my mom's, and he tried to steal it from her during the divorce to give to his bratty mistress. I just shut the door on him. Long story short, police had to be called as my dad refused to leave. I found out today why he tried to stay with me. His mistress has been bleeding him dry with child support and alimony. I think they're broken up for good. He's had to sell every asset he had, and now he's broke. I know this because he's staying with my uncle, his brother, and he called me to let me know. The saddest and funniest part about all this is how my dad won't stop talking about how heartless and ungrateful I am to anyone who will listen. And he's posting passive-aggressive posts on his Facebook about how you do everything for your kids, but then they throw you to the curb. This whole ordeal over the last few years have been hard. I've been going to therapy and have slowly come to terms with the fact that my father isn't the man I thought he was, and likely he will never be. But it brought back a lot of hurt. I can't believe he would do this. I just don't understand how somebody can do this and can behave this way. But it is what it is. But anyway, my dad. The entitled, vindictive little jerk, everyone. Never thought I'd be able to say that, but there we go. I'm a 16-year-old girl who's been blind since birth. Despite my disability, I've always tried to live a normal life. My parents have been incredibly supportive, especially my dad, who's a judge. They've taught me to be independent and not let my blindness define me. I love spending time outdoors, especially in a local park. The sound of nature, the fresh air, and the feeling of the sun on my skin always lift my spirits. And that's why I was there that day, sitting on a bench with my best friend. We've been chatting and enjoying the afternoon when my friend said she was going to grab us some drinks from a nearby vendor. I told her I'd wait on a bench, and as I sat there, I suddenly felt someone tugging at my purse. "Hey, what are you doing?" I heard a woman's voice, sounding annoyed and defensive. "Mind your own business, kid. This purse is mine." "No, it's not. It's my purse. Please let go." "How would you know? You can't even see." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman was actually trying to steal from a blind girl. I don't need to see it to know it's mine. Let go now, or I'll scream for help. "You little brat, give me that purse." Suddenly, I felt hands around my throat. The woman was actually trying to choke me. I couldn't breathe and panic set in. I tried to call for help, but I could barely make a sound. And just when I thought I might pass out, I heard quick footsteps approaching and a man's voice. Hey, what the hell are you doing? Let her go. I felt the hands release my throat as a man pulled the woman away from me. I gasped for air, coughing and trying to catch my breath. Someone call 911. Now, the man shouts. I heard people gathering around, voices of concern mixing with confusion. Are you okay? Can you breathe? Yes, I think so. Thank you for helping me. Don't worry, the police are on their way. Can you tell me what happened? I explained the situation to the man, my voice still shaky from the attack. As I spoke, I heard my friend returning. Oh my god, what happened? Are you okay? I am alright now, thanks to this man. Some woman tried to steal my purse and then attacked me when I caught her. That's horrible. I'm so sorry I wasn't here. We could hear the woman yelling in the background, still being restrained by the man who saved me. Let me go. This is ridiculous. I didn't do anything wrong. The man tells her, Lady, I saw you with my own eyes. You were choking a blind girl. What's wrong with you? Soon we heard police sirens approaching. The officers quickly took control of the situation, separating the woman from the crowd and taking statements from witnesses. The officer tells her, Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted robbery and assault. You have the right to remain silent. As the officer read the woman her rights, I heard her continue to protest. This is absurd. You can't arrest me. I'm a respected member of the community. You can't arrest me. Ma'am, please calm down. We have multiple witnesses, including the man who pulled you off the victim. You're in serious trouble. I gave my statement to another officer, explaining what had happened. When I mentioned that my father was a judge, I heard the woman gasp. A judge's daughter? Oh, no. This is all a misunderstanding. I was just trying to help her. Save it for the court, ma'am. Let's go. As they took the woman away, the man who helped me approached. I'm glad you're okay. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Is there anything else I can do to help? I tell him you've done more than enough. Thank you so much for saving me. My friend adds, Yes, thank you. I can't believe this happened. I am so sorry I left you alone. It's not your fault. Nobody could have predicted this. In the next few weeks, my dad, being a judge, had to recuse himself from the case to avoid any conflict of interest. But he made sure I had all the support I needed. The day of the trial came and I was nervous about facing my attacker again. But with my family and friends by my side, I felt stronger. I told my story to the court, my voice clear and steady. As the judge delivered the verdict, I could feel the tension in the courtroom. In light of the severity of your actions, attacking a defenseless blind teenager, and your lack of remorse throughout these proceedings, I hereby sentence you to 10 years in prison for attempted robbery and aggravated assault. The woman who attacked me started sobbing loudly. This isn't fair. It was just a stupid purse. Madam, your actions were deliberate and cruel. You tried to rob a blind girl, and when caught, you attempted to choke her to death. Your sentence reflects the seriousness of your crime. Court is adjourned. My dad hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. Thanks, Dad. I'm just glad it's over. Let's go home. I think we all could use some rest, my mom says. As we walked away, I heard someone call out. It was a man who had saved me in the park. Excuse me, I just wanted to say how brave you were in there. Thank you again for what you did. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there. I'm just glad I could help. Take care of yourself, okay? As we drove home, I knew this experience would stay with me for a long time, but I was determined not to let it change who I was or how I lived my life. Tomorrow was a new day, and I was ready to face it, just as I always had. I've been away for 2 years. I kind of expected I'd be back to post one last time in 2024 because my brother went for a 4-year bachelor's degree, much like I currently am. For those who remember my previous posts, I'm the guy whose parents basically got their butts verbally handed to them by the family for bad favoritism towards my older brother. Things really hit the fan on my 18th birthday because my parents barely put any effort into it and went all out on my brother's 18th in 2020 during the pandemic. They even managed to get a DJ for the party and then presented him with a car. Well, on my 18th, I got no car or even anything close to a similar party. even though my academic standing was better than my brother's. I basically worked too hard for my parents' approval and never got it. When I asked them why my brother got a car and not me, they claimed my brother worked harder for it, which was later confirmed to be untrue when I got a bigger scholarship. My grandma happened to be eavesdropping and laid into my parents. Then she got the rest of the family involved. And for the record, they were planning on getting involved anyway. My grandma just stepped things up right then. But after several family members laid into them, my parents, just to try and save face, bought me a car but treated me like a spoiled child who was getting a new toy when they gave me the keys. It was a late 90s Subaru that I thought was great, but it turned out to have a balloon hid gasket that had barely been holding together with sealer. My parents treated me like I was being unreasonable for wanting equal treatment. And then when the car went bad, the reaction was to apathetically shrug and call it karma, which caused my grandparents to start it all over again with them and caused the family intervention. I got many people messaging me and asking if having a car was really necessary and that I basically forced my parents into it. I forced nothing, and it would have happened anyway if I didn't ask my parents why. And I really did need a car. I had no way of having a job without one. My parents lived 10 miles from the nearest bus stop. I literally had no way of making money before college without a car, and no, I couldn't get rides. No one was available for that on a daily basis. So many people I talked to here tried to dance around my reasoning to insert their own logic, many of which I felt were projecting their own problems onto me. And then there were the straight up trolls and jerks. I don't even want to repeat, let alone remember, what they all said to me. But a lot of them kept it up after I got the not the a-hole verdict, like they had an axe to grind. And it really didn't help my mental state at the time. As you can imagine, my family laid into my parents all over again in that family intervention. And by the time they were done, my parents looked like scolded kids sitting there looking at their feet. The Subaru was sold as junk, and my grandparents essentially forced my parents to buy me a better car, a Honda Civic. And my uncle went over the car with a fine-toothed comb before they bought it. And that time my parents didn't even treat me like a brat. And yes, I still have the Honda. And yes, it still runs just fine. I've kept up with oil changes and the like. No accidents either. I've been a careful driver. The final thing that broke my parents before I left was finding out that I got a better scholarship than my brother. Any excuses they'd previously had to favor my brother so completely were thrown out the window, and they were forced to give me words of encouragement I knew they didn't mean. And wondering why they disliked me so much, I later found out from my grandma that the reason I was treated differently was because my parents had wanted their second child to be a girl. My grandma ended up admitting even more to me later after I left for college. Before I was born, my parents were so convinced that I'd be a girl that they bought a bunch of girl stuff without even checking my gender through ultrasound. I found out from my grandma about a year ago that my mother had tried to raise me like a girl for the first 6 months of my life. She was putting me in girls' clothes and calling me by a different name. My father enabled it all. I know it's true because my grandma showed me old family photos of me with my brother when I was an infant and I was wearing pink in all of them. There was even a visible name tag on some of the clothes with a name my parents wanted for a girl. But once word got out, my parents stopped dressing me as a girl. My grandparents told my mother that trying to raise me as something I wasn't even giving me a choice on whether or not I wanted to be that. And though my family is rather old school, my grandparents are surprisingly open-minded people. They put the hammer down on my parents, so the girl treatment stopped. But instead of new clothes, they gave me my brother's hand-me-downs for years, until my grandparents noticed that too and did something about it. Finding out all of this, my grandparents, my childhood from being far worse than it was, and they never told me until this past couple of years. I am incredibly thankful for them. My mother apparently struggled to call me by my real name for 2 years or so, and because my parents didn't get a girl, they refused to connect with me like they did my brother, the boy they'd actually wanted. And when my grandparents heard I wasn't getting anything new like my brother was, they threatened to petition for guardianship of me. They had evidence of the various things I described too. My parents couldn't stand for anything that could become a public scandal. So they stopped with the hand me downs and pretended to love me for a while. But as I got older, it degenerated into indifference and then maybe into hate. I'm not sure. Hate means to still care in some way, but indifference is the actual opposite of love. I just know my parents couldn't accept that their favorite son wasn't the best at everything compared to their unwanted son. And since I moved out, they barely interacted with family. They threw themselves into work, in part because the rest of the family forced them to contribute to my college like they did for my brothers, but also because to them, working was the only thing that gave them a reason to tell everyone to leave them alone. My grandma suspects they've even slept in their cars a few times to avoid coming home. I only saw my parents at Christmas at my uncle's house for the past couple of years, and they barely even spoke to me now that I was living my best life away from them. I guess you could say they'd stopped bothering to act like I was their son. They don't want me anymore after the family humiliation they feel like they'd suffered, even though they know they brought it on themselves. They've become workaholics that do little else. My grandmother told me my bedroom is basically exactly how I left it on the day I moved out. My parents have not even gone inside, but they kept my brother's room clean and ready for the day he'd finally come back home after college. Well, that didn't happen. They flew out to see him for his graduation and had a big celebration with him. I was not invited to go as well. Not that I could afford it, but my grandparents went along and they gave me the details. My parents were still convinced my brother would be coming back home. And that's when he awkwardly told him he had already secured a job through an internship he'd done the past year, and he'd found an apartment of his own too. My father became furious, and my mother lost her mind crying and begging him to come home, but he refused. You see, this past 2 years, my brother and I have reconnected a bit. He found my Reddit account and called me. He wasn't angry, just wanted to talk. He admitted to me that our parents put him through a lot as well. Our mother absolutely smothered him, especially when I wasn't around, and our father was also quite strict with his expectations. So the fact that I did better than my brother when our parents had invested everything into him just broke them. And now they are extra broken because my brother refused to come home with them. The way our parents treated my brother is also the reason we stopped connecting as siblings until this past couple of years. He did bully me at times when we were growing up, and that's because being the favorite went to his head. But it was favoritism with strings attached. And when he realized that, he got counseling after moving out. My brother also has a girlfriend he met while in college, and he kept her a secret because he knew our parents wouldn't approve, and they didn't when they found out. My brother blew up at them when my mother referred to his girlfriend, whom she hadn't even met, as promiscuous. My brother's girlfriend is in nursing school and a year from graduation herself, and my brother says she's the best. I've never met her, but she sounds wonderful by how he's described her. My grandma told my mother went My grandma told me my mother went so far as to hire a private investigator to find out who my brother's girlfriend was. I was irritated to know that she was squeaky clean and from a good family on the same side politically too. But in her mind, she was the reason my brother wasn't coming back. Even though my brother made it clear he decided that before even meeting his girlfriend. My father had basically become stoically silent about it from what I heard. But my mother let it slip to my brother that she'd hired a detective, and my brother gave our parents a piece of his mind. And this led to a whole argument about how they gave him everything and how he was ungrateful for not coming back. But he called them out, saying that being the favorite child is abuse too, because they nearly made him like them. It broke my parents to hear that. My brother told our grandparents, and they staged another family intervention, one I was even involved in through a video call. My parents tried not to even pay attention to me, but even my brother told them to talk to me. We all told them enough was enough. They have two sons, and they needed to start treating us fairly because they let something as idiotic as not being born the gender they wanted ruin their love for me from day one. And pardon my language on this next part. My father hit his breaking point and yelled, "You want us to admit we messed up? Well, yeah, we did. What do you want us to do? Time travel? We're paying for part of OP's college too. What more does he want from us?" Things ended very poorly in that intervention. My mother cried that she was sorry to me, But even then, I still didn't feel her heart was in it because she didn't spend much time apologizing to me at all before moving on to my brother through the phone he was video calling from. She spent a long time crying and apologizing to him until he told her to go back and actually apologize to me like she meant it. That's when my father grabbed the phone and shut it off. Then he just sat down and told everyone to leave. The last thing my grandparents said to my parents was that they were so disappointed in them, and maybe losing both sons showed them they should never have favored one. Right now, my parents are not speaking terms with the rest of the family. My grandma heard a rumor that they may be planning to move, but they have a paid off country house and great careers. I feel like they'd be foolish to move, but since my brother isn't going back and I'm likely not either, I suppose it's not really an issue. I kind of doubt they'd welcome me in if I came to visit after the mess that went down. I'm still thankful to them for helping to pay for my college. My student loans were significantly reduced thanks to them. But as parents, I think we can all agree they just didn't do a good job.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.